Well, good morning, everyone. Let's get started with today's class. So I thought as I start today's class, let me just ask you guys to maybe open up your videos so that at least we can see at the beginning of the class. Yeah, okay, so good to see you all guys. So unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to at least physically meet you guys. So how many of you are in campus? Last time I checked, some 8 or 10 of you were in campus. So now,
Yes, sir.
okay,
Eight of us are in campus.
8 of you guys are in campus. Okay, fine. All right. Yeah. Thanks for turning on your videos. So nice to meet you all. And I hope all of you are, actively listening to the class because, I am aware that many times students take opportunity of the online class mode to maybe, just turn it on and then do whatever you want. So don't do that. If you do that, like, you are the ones who are going to actually lose out. So many times during the class, we might be working out some problems and doing things like that. So please make sure that you actively participate and make sure that you have a good connection with your fellow students also. So Bharadwaj informed me that some of you guys are facing issues with the internet connectivity. So what I will do is, we will see how it goes. So I'll put up these videos on YouTube. So I am also trying to parallelly record on my laptop. So if they, let's look at how much data both are consuming. So one of either the direct Teams recording or what I'm doing on my laptop, say either of the two, will get uploaded to YouTube as an unlisted video, and I'll put the link in Moodle. Okay, so that those of you who are having disconnections or interruptions in connectivity due to your uh, internet connection or power and things like that, you can go through those videos. All right. Okay. So, okay, thanks for turning on your videos. Probably if you want, you can keep them on, or now we can turn it off. All right. So let's get started with today's class. Right. So what we will be seeing, I hope my screen is visible. Right. Okay. So today we are going to start off with the transistor basics, right? So I'm sure you all have studied, so please do help me along the way, because if you have already covered certain things and you are quite certain of, quite sure about what you have done, I need not spend much time on that, but if there are areas that you're kind of still not very clear, you can let me know so that I can concentrate on. Okay. All right. So bipolar junction transistors. Right. Yeah. Is there a question or was it an unmute by accident? So please. Yeah.
Sorry,
No
sir.
issues.
It was by mistake.
Right. Right. No issues. All right. So I'm sure all of you have seen the symbol for both the NPN and the PNP transistors, right? So right.
Sir,
Yes. Yes.
actually, I had a doubt from last
Okay.
class. In the last class, you told us about transconductors and transresistance.
Yes.
Where are these actually used? Transconductors and transresistance. In practical life, where are these used?
Okay, so transconductance, we will be seeing that even a BJT, the way it operates, of course, there are two, for a BJT, there are two ways of looking at it. But for a MOSFET, if you take a MOSFET, it's primarily a transconductor, all right? So the way, the mechanism by which it even amplifies signal, even does voltage amplification and so on, is by converting a small change in the input voltage to a change in the drain current, or the same can be talked about for BJTs as well. And if you had an op amp design also, basically, if you remove the final stage, Okay, if you look at a 741 schematic, of course, it's quite complicated. But if you remove the final stage, which is a voltage buffer, uh, the rest everything, it's basically a transconductance stage. All right. So that is how transconductors are used, and there are also other applications where you connect, like if you look at design of mixers, if you look at what is called as Gilbert cell multiplier and things like that, you have a voltage to current conversion, and then there is a current commutation. Okay, so I'm not sure if we will be covering Gilbert cell mixers in this particular course, but we'll be looking at it probably in an elective course that I'll be teaching. So wherever you have kind of this multiplication type operations, you have the V to I conversion and then so on. There are also other applications in sensors and so on, where you convert a voltage to a current, and for sensor excitation and things like that. Now, current to voltage, which is transimpedance amplifiers, as I mentioned in the class, they are widely used for all these optical communication related circuits. All right. So typically, all photodiodes, phototransistors, uh, the current through the photodiodes or current through the phototransistors is a function of the light intensity incident on it. And basically, what you get at the input of your circuit is basically a current which is varying. Okay, and the first stage of your electronics is basically a transimpedance amplifier, which converts this changing current to a changing voltage, and after that we process it in the voltage domain. All right. So if you are looking at there is you guys might have about the payload that was designed and designed by IIST and launched, I think, in 2019 before the pandemic came. So where there was an RPA, a retarding potential analyzer, which was to study the properties of the ionosphere. So even there, basically what was happening is the first stage was a transimpedance amplifier. Okay, so there although that is a different type of a sensor, which but the fundamentally what that sensor was doing is the current through those grids was basically going to be in proportion to the ions which were impinging on that particular RPA element, and the electronics part basically had to convert that current, which was in the order of, let's say, a few tens or hundreds of nanoamperes, to basically it needed to be digitized. Okay, so you take that current, convert it to a voltage, and then you kind of amplify that voltage and interface to an ADC such that you convert it to an equivalent digital representation form. All right. Does it answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. So let's start with BJT. So as all of you know, this is a NPN transistor. This is a PNP transistor. So why is it called as an NPN transistor?
So between two N transistor, there is a sandwich of P transistor.
Right. So basically, if you look at its structure in a kind of a crude way, you have the emitter, you have the base, and then you have the collector. Right. Typically, this is how it is. Like the base is a very thin layer, and you have the emitter, which is also not very broad, but then you have the collector, which is a larger area. So for an NPN transistor, this is an N-type material, the base is P-type material, and the collector is again an N-type material. For a PNP transistor, it's the other way around. You have the P-type material, N-type material as the base, and a P-type material again as your collector, right? So you can kind of think of an NPN transistor, right? This is basically wherever you have the arrow, that is your emitter, middle is the base, the other is the collector, right? And the arrow direction shows you, what does it tell you? What does the direction of the arrow tell you?
So direction of
Correct.
current from P to
Correct.
N.
So the direction of the current. So the direction of current in an NPN transistor is from collector to emitter, whereas in a PNP transistor, the direction of current is from emitter to collector, right? Okay. Now this can be thought of as having two diodes, right? for an NPN transistor, it is kind of like this. Now you have one diode between your base and emitter, and you have another diode between your base and collector, right? So which of these two diodes actually controls the current? Or rather, which of the two diodes is going to control the collector current? Or the voltage between which two terminals?
The base,
The bit.
B2E.
the
BE,
B
yes,
to E.
correct. So basically what happens is you kind of bias it like this. So maybe let me, you know, if you take an NPN transistor, right? So you put a voltage source between these two, you put a voltage source between these two, right? So have you studied about the different regions of operation? Forward active mode, reverse active mode, saturation, cutoff? Yes, right,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So let's say for cutoff, what is the condition?
Or in reverse
Right, so
bias.
let's define this potential as VBE, right? And then what can we define this as? Let's say this is VBC, or in other words, you can talk about VCE, correct, between these two terminals. Okay, so for cutoff, what is the condition for VBE?
Less than 0.7
Right.
volts.
So basically, every transistor will have a slightly different cut-in voltage. I think you would have heard of that. So let's say less than 0.6 or 0.5. So some textbooks will talk about, you know, the VBE to be around 0.6. Some will say 0.65. Some will say 0.7. Some of the more modern BJTs will have around 0.8. So it differs from device to device. So basically, if you're working with a certain type of a BJT, you have to look at the data sheet of the transistor. For example, the transistor that you guys will be working with in the lab, in the analog electronics lab, is actually BC547. Okay, so I would encourage guys to download the data sheet of this transistor. This is an NPN transistor, all right, and BC547. Go through its data sheet. So there you will see. In fact, we will go through it in the class also, probably a few classes down the line. But what you would see is that for this transistor, I think it's around 0.65 or something like that. Okay. So for example, so we can kind of say, so for a VBE which is less than 0.6 or 0.5, the collector current is basically going to be 0 or very close to 0, right? And you can consider the transistor to be in cutoff region, right? Now it really, does it matter what the collector emitter voltage is when you are in cutoff mode? Let's say my VBE is around 0.4 or 0.3, all right, but my VCE is going to be 10 volt. Will I still have current flow? You got the question, right? So the question is, my VBE is, let's say, 0.3 volt. My VCE, the collector voltage is, collector emitter voltage is, let's say, 10 volt. All right. The question is, will I have collector current?
No, sir.
Yeah. So basically,
No, sir.
you will not have any significant amount of collector current, but in practice, you will have what is called as the reverse saturation current of, you know, these two diodes, which is very, very small, within the range of some, you know, maybe some nanoamperes or things like that, right? But otherwise, for all practical purposes, you, what happened to this? Oh my, what is this? Okay. Why is my thing stuck here? Just give me a moment. Right. So otherwise, I think basically what you guys told is correct. So you do not have Right, let me share it once again. All right. So you don't have any significant amount of collector current, so you can basically take it to be around close to 0. Right. Okay. Now what is your forward active mode? So what is your forward active mode? What is the condition?
In this condition, we have E and B in forward mode and B and C in
Okay.
reverse mode.
So the base
Reverse
emitter
bias.
junction is forward biased, right?
Forward bias.
And what about the base collector junction? Reverse biased.
So
Very good.
reverse
Okay.
biased.
Reverse bias.
So a typical example can be, let's say your transistor is going to be, let's say this is at let's say 0 volt. Let's say this is around 0.65 or 0.6, and if you have some 5 volt at the collector, right? So your VBE is 0.65 here, and what is your VBC, the base collector voltage? Your base collector voltage is how much?
Minus 4.35.
Come on guys, I've drawn the thing here.
It's 4.35.
Correct. This is minus
4.35.
4.35 volt. So this is forward biased and this is reverse biased. Correct? Okay. Very good. And where do you use this mode? This is where you use it when you want to design amplifiers, right? Okay. What about the third mode, which is saturation mode? What is the condition?
So both junctions are forward biased.
Correct. So your base emitter junction is forward biased and your base collector junction is also forward biased, right? So which means how will your, let's say the same example, this is 0.65, all right. So if this collector voltage is, let's say 0.3 or let's say 0.2 volt, right? Now what happens? Your base emitter voltage is, of course, VBE is 0.65 volt, and your VBC is going to be what? 0.4 or 0.335, right? 0.35 volt. Okay. So this is forward biased, and this is also close to being forward biased. All right. So at least you know the base collector voltage is positive, right? And so this is your saturation mode. So in your saturation mode, what is your VCE? Have you studied what is the saturation VCE?
No, sir.
0.3 volts.
Okay, so basically this will be around 0.3 to 0.1 volt. Okay, so basically what it means is, right, when your BJT is in the saturation mode, right, the collector emitter voltage cannot drop down to 0. You understood? So your collector emitter voltage, as long as there is a current flow through your you know, a transistor, the VCE cannot become 0. All right. So there has even, you know, as long as IC is not equal to 0. Understood? So which means that if there is a collector current flowing through your transistor, even in the saturation mode, right, your collector to emitter voltage, as I have marked here, will not go down to 0. It will have a certain small residual amount. And what is that quantity? That is called as the saturation VCE or VCE sat, as it is typically used in data sheets. And that value of course, is somewhere in the range between 0.1 and 0.3 volt. Okay. Now, this is one of the things which,
Sir,
yeah, someone had a question.
sir, how you get that value 0.3 to 0.1 volt for VC?
The VCE SAT, yeah, VCE SAT, that is what has been measured. That is what you'll see even in the data sheet. So you can go through that BC547 data sheet. You will see that, that is what it is. The BJT doesn't go below that.
Can we calculate it by some formula?
Can we calculate it by some formula? I am not sure. Maybe if you go very deep into device physics, you may be able to. I don't know. But I'm not into device physics, and so I don't know.
Okay.
But there is no straightforward formula to calculate it. Like typically, it's around 0.2,
Okay.
0.25, somewhere in that range. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, this is one point in which MOSFETs are significantly different, and which is why MOSFETs can easily go down to a VDS, the equivalent voltage for a MOSFET. This will easily go down to 0, and that is one of the main reasons. Of course, that along with a few other factors is one of the main reasons why most of our digital technology is based out of MOSFETs. Okay, it's all CMOS based. All right. Okay. Now, this VCE SAT becomes important when we design this BJT as a switch. All right. So when we will look at some circuits, and then at that time it will become more apparent. All right. So the fourth mode, for the sake of completeness, we can talk about it, which is reverse active mode. What is this mode?
Here BE is in reverse mode and B and
Correct.
C is in
So the
forward
base
mode.
emitter junction is in reverse biased mode, and the base collector junction is in the forward biased mode. Typically, we do not use this reverse active mode. Okay. One thing that you must very clearly understand is that BJT is not a symmetrical device. What do I mean by that? You cannot swap the collector and emitter, right? And that is kind of apparent even from the structure of the BJT, where the base is very thin. The emitter area and the collector area are different, right? The collector area is much more than the emitter area, and so BJTs are not symmetrical devices, and so you cannot swap the collector and emitter terminals. Okay, whereas in the case of MOSFETs, the drain and the source can be swapped. All right, and you'll pretty much get the same performance. Okay, but that is another difference between BJTs and MOSFETs. Where BJT, you cannot swap the two terminals. All right, okay, and typically we do not use this reverse active mode. So let me just write cannot swap C and E. All right. Okay. So having studied all this in the forward active mode, yes.
Sir, sir, is this reverse active mode is also called inverted mode?
Probably, okay. I have not come across that terminology. It's possible. Yes. Yes.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
in the
Yeah.
previous third saturation mode, BC won't be 0.45.
Sorry. Oh, VBC is 0.45. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So in the forward active mode, so what happens is, what controls the current of the BJT? So you guys mentioned that VBE controls the collector current, right? So this is something which you have to keep in mind very clearly. Okay, it's not so much as your base collector voltage, it's essentially your VBE, which is going to set the current for your BJT. Alternatively, you can talk in terms of base current also for a BJT, right? Now, what is the relationship between IC and VBE?
Sir, IC is equal to beta IB plus ICBO.
Okay, that's one way of writing it. But can you relate it to this one? So collector current can be written as some constant, okay, I naught, or let's call it just I naught, exponential VB by VT. Have you guys studied this? I hope you guys have. Yeah. Okay. What is
Yes,
VT?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, this is your
Thermal
thermal
voltage.
voltage. Yeah.
T by Q.
So this is basically K T by
26
Q,
millivolt.
where K is your, what is
Q.
K?
Room temperature. The
Yeah,
room
K is
temperature.
Boltzmann constant.
Boltzmann's constant, right?
Oh, sorry.
And what is T? Correct.
The
So
temperature.
temperature in what?
Temperature.
Is it in Celsius or
Kelvin.
Kelvin? Right.
Kelvin.
So
Kelvin,
K is
Kelvin.
basically your Boltzmann's constant. T is temperature. I mean, room temperature meaning like it's your temperature, or let's call it the ambient temperature in Kelvin, right? And what is Q?
Charge.
Yeah,
So
charge of
Charge
an
on
one
electron.
electrons, right?
Electron.
Okay. So IC is given by, so, and here what is this I naught? Correct. So the
Saturation.
reverse saturation, correct?
Reverse saturation.
Reverse saturation. Correct.
So basically what happens, so how can you write IB here? So basically the I naught gets scaled, it can be called as the, for, let's say the I naught prime is basically the reverse saturation current of the base emitter junction, right? And I naught can be written as beta times I naught prime, or in other words, right, basically the fundamental principle of working of the BJT is that you have this diode, and the diode current is going to be set by the base emitter voltage, right? And the collector current, what is the relationship between collector current and base current? Beta times,
Beta into
right?
phase current.
Okay, this is what you
Base
will have.
current.
Okay, how can you relate the emitter current and collector current? Alpha times,
Alpha
right?
times
So
omega.
okay,
Alpha times.
all right. So typically, what will be the range of beta?
In 100.
Approximately 99 to
What, only
100.
99 to 100?
100 to 100.
No, so more than
Yeah.
100 is
So
also.
there are different transistors,
100
okay?
to 100.
So there are some big power transistors where the beta can be as low as some 30, 40 or something, all right? And there are also some very high gain transistors where the beta can be as high as, 600, 700 and so on, all right? Okay. So it has a very large range. So for different, different models of BJT, different vendors with different model numbers have, there's a very large spread of beta that can be present. Okay, so the larger the power transistors which are used for, let's say, some power electronics and things, that will have very smaller beta. Okay. Whereas some of the smaller transistors will have higher one. The one which we use in lab, okay, what you guys would be using even for your experiments, that beta is around, let's say, it's around 200. Okay, so plus or minus 40 or 50. Okay, so it can, some of the transistors can be 190, 180. Typically our, whatever we have seen in our lab is between 180 and 260. Okay, this BC547 or this one more model. So whatever it is, whatever transistor you use, it's in this range. You typically it will be around 220, 230, 240, 210, around that. Okay, so that's your beta. Now typically what will be your alpha? So how is alpha and beta related?
Beta by beta
Very
plus.
good. So beta divided by beta plus 1. So typically what will be the alpha value?
Ideally,
Yeah, this will be slightly around 0.9.
Nearly 1.
9998, something like that, right? Okay. Now, what about how do you relate beta into how do you write beta in terms of alpha?
alpha plus 1 by 1.
Alpha,
alpha by 1 minus
alpha by 1 minus alpha, right? So alpha divided by 1 minus alpha. So these are all relationships that you have already seen. Okay. Now, have you studied about the temperature dependence of BJT's current? BJT current?
No, sir.
Okay. Then what I'll do is I'll take that little later. Okay. So let's now go into what we can call as. So while we are on the topic of beta, let me also point out one more thing. So this beta, which for example, let's say the beta is 200. Okay, for example. All right. Now this is true in the forward active mode. All right. In fact, as IC increases, there is a small change in beta. All right. This you will see in data sheet, it will be captured. All right. So if you go through the data sheet, you will see that for some lower base currents or lower, so I'm kind of interchangeably using base current, collector current, because for, let's say for lower base currents, you will have this high value of beta. But as you increase the base current or as you increase the collector current, correspondingly as the collector current increases, you will see that beta kind of starts dropping a little bit. Okay, this is one thing that you have to have in mind. And also another thing is when you move to saturation region, okay, so when you are in the saturation region, the beta starts falling down, okay, and beta goes from its actual value to what is called as a beta force. Okay, you can kind of, I mean, some textbooks will use different terminology, but you can talk about a certain beta forced where beta forced is actually less than your actual beta. All right. So this also can kind of tie in, like, because in saturation region typically you try to, you know, sometimes drive a lot of current also. So in other words, what happens is, so when we say the beta forced is lesser, right? So for example, your normal beta is, let's say, 200, right? Your beta forced can kind of drop down to 100. All right. So which means your collector current to base current ratio drops down when you kind of move into the saturation region. So this is something that you have in mind when you are designing switches. All right. Okay. Now, yes.
Sir, sir, how the beta is changing? So what I have studied, beta remains
Yeah.
constant.
Beta.
But
Yeah.
how is this changing with ice?
Yeah. So that is under certain conditions. See, anything that you take in engineering, uh, if you look at a certain parameter, when you say you know, a certain parameter remains fixed, it is always within certain limits. Okay. So for example, if you are going to bias your transistor to carry 1 milliamp current, or if you say I want to carry 10 milliamp current, the beta remains the same. All right. But if you say instead of 10 milliamp current, I want my transistor to carry, let's say, some 70 milliamp of current, there you will see some beta degradation. Understood? So, but
Yes, sir.
usually when you bias your transistors for acting as a amplifier or any of the other circuits, typically you will be below 20 milliamp, right? And in that region, the beta is fairly constant. Okay. Now, when we talk about beta forced and saturation region and so on, so there, yeah, let me maybe give this particular, let me give this figure. So I don't know if you have come across this particular figure in your previous semester. So the x-axis is the collector base voltage. Okay. Now your collector base voltage, if you have a negative, okay, so earlier in this particular example that I had taken, right, in the forward active mode, what happened to the base collector voltage? The base collector voltage was negative. In other words, the collector base voltage is positive, correct? So as long as your collector base voltage is positive, in which mode are you in? In the forward active mode.
Forward
Right?
active.
Forward
Now,
active.
when you talk about the saturation mode, what happens to the collector base voltage here? It becomes negative, right? So
Negative.
if you plot the collector current versus the collector base voltage, all right, so it turns out to be something like this. You have, for all positive voltages, it's fairly constant, okay, and as you reduce your collector base voltage, right, so what happens is for some time it still remains constant and then it starts kind of falling. Okay, now this region, okay, beyond this point is the forward active mode here. All right, forward active mode meaning that your collector base junction is still reverse biased and your, you know, the collector current is fairly independent of the collector base voltage. All right, so you can talk about IC independent to a first order. Let me just say, you know, we will see that there's a slight little dependence on the collector base voltage or the collector emitter voltage, but to a first order it is pretty much independent. Okay, let me write it as FAM, forward active mode. But in the saturation mode, IC is dependent on VCB in saturation region. Okay, so this is basically your saturation region. All right, so what do you see here? So as your, the way to understand it is like this. All right, so when you start reducing your collector voltage such that your collector base junction starts to turn on, right? So in the example that I had given, we had a base collector voltage of 0.45, right? So which is where you start seeing some fairly decent amount of current. You can think of it as like this. Okay, let me go to, let's say this is your emitter, base and current, right? So your PN junction diode is in this form. So you have a current, collector current which is flowing in this direction. Okay, this is due to your VBE. Now what are you doing? This is your PN junction diode and this diode you are forward biasing. So which means what happens? Due to your VBC, there is an opposite direction current which starts to flow, right? So the effective terminal currents will, what will happen? It will start reducing. Okay, this is what you would have studied in your Ebers-Small model also, right? So which is why the current starts decreasing in your saturation region. All right. So when your collector current starts decreasing for either the same or an increased amount of base current, why is it an increased amount of base current? Because it's not only this PN junction diode which is active, you know, this other PN junction diode is also now starting to get active. So the base current has to feed both the diodes, correct? So your IB increases and your IC, effective IC, decreases. Now what will happen? Obviously beta will start reducing. Okay, so which is why we say in the saturation region the beta starts reducing because your IC by IB ratio is now starting to get affected. Okay, So you have to keep this in mind when you design switches. We will do circuits where we use the transistor as a switch to turn on, turn off things and so on. But this you have to keep in mind. Okay, is this clear? Does it make sense? Right.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. So now let's just quickly look at the input characteristics. Now, what is the input characteristics? You basically plot what is on the x-axis, what is on the y-axis. Can you tell me?
The input current and output voltage.
No.
Input current and input voltage.
No.
Collector, emitter, collector base.
No.
IC versus V.
IC versus
VB.
Correct.
VB.
So you have your base emitter voltage and you have a collector current. Okay. Now this is going to look very, very, very similar to your diode, because basically what is controlling your current is a diode, PN junction diode. So how does your so input characteristics basically is going to tell you how is this diode going to vary. Okay. You can also plot IB versus VBE, because you know, IB and IC are just scaled by a constant factor, okay, which is beta. So if you plot IB versus VBE, it is basically your some of the textbooks might talk about input characteristics as IB versus VBE. Sometimes you can plot, you know, I mean, other times you plot IC versus VBE. Basically, both are scaled. It's just a scaled factor of each other, right? So you're going to have literally zero current here, and you have going to have very small current here, and then you're going to have an exponential increase, right? This is how it happens. And then how do you measure the cut-in voltage?
Tangent is
You have
drawn.
a tangent drawn, right?
Yes.
So you take this kind of almost straight section and you draw a tangent, and then you take almost the straight section and then you draw a tangent, and both of them meet here. This is basically your V cut in, or this is what you typically use as your V, you know, 0.6 or 0.65 or 0.7, right? In fact, what I have drawn is a more gentle kind of a slope. In fact, you will have something like this also, okay? So where, you know, it becomes a very tight kind of a number, okay? All right. Now, what is your output characteristics? Now, before I move to output characteristics, let's go back to this one. So I think in all your calculations, you would have said that your VBE is 0.7 and you would have done all the calculations. Am I right? For your circuit, right.
Yes, sir.
So why
sir.
do we take that V? Let's say, for example, this is VBE as 0.7. Why why should it be only 0.7? Why can't we take 0.75, or, you know, why do you think that the VBE is fairly constant?
So we
Because
consider
actually,
silicon diodes barrier potential is 0.7.
So why do you say, like, you know, inspire, like for example, you can bias your transistor at, let's say, 1 milliamp current or 5 milliamp current, still you say the VB, you kind of take it to be almost constant. Why?
Sir, since
because
IC depends on VB exponentially, so even if there is a very slight increase, will the current will change, but VB will be almost the
Very good.
same only, close to the
Very
cut-in
good, right?
voltage.
So maybe this is a little bit exaggerated curve, but like if you were to, you know, look at more precise curves, it will be kind of very exponentially increasing thing. So it doesn't matter whether, you know, you are at this particular point or this particular point or this particular point. The change in delta VBE for the delta current that you get is very minimal. So for all practical purposes, you can just say, okay, my VBE is 0.7, and then you can proceed with your calculations. the VBE will change in the order of maybe few millivolts. Okay, you might have some, you might have double the current, or 10-20 milliamp current difference, but then the corresponding VBE change is very minimal. So you can pretty much take it to be the same value, okay, for all calculations, because it is really not practically feasible to sit and calculate exact voltages of your base emitter, exact base emitter voltage, because then what happens is, I mean, you'll be literally bogged down with the amount of complex mathematics that is involved, right? You can never do meaningful design. Okay, all right. Now, let's look at the output characteristics. What do you plot in an output characteristics?
The IC versus
Correct. So you have
VCE.
IC versus the VCE. So how does the curve look? Right. So initially it starts from here, and for a particular, let's say this is for IB1, for another IB2, IB3, okay, something like this, right? So where is your forward active mode?
Then near the horizontal
Near
lines.
constant one.
This is your
Where IC
forward
between
active mode?
constant.
No, this is
No,
basically
sir.
your saturation mode, right? And this is basically your forward
Saturation.
active mode. Okay, the boundary between saturation mode and forward active mode, it's not very clearly defined for a BJT. Okay, so when your VCE kind of drops to around, let's say, 0.3, 0.2, you kind of know that it is kind of going closer to your saturation mode. So you make sure that you have a fairly good margin for your VCE, so that you are basically here when you are designing your transistor to work as an amplifier. All right. Now, what will be the relationship between IB1, IB2, which is greater? IB3 is
IB3
greater.
is
So for
greater.
larger base current, you correspondingly have a larger collector current. And in the forward active mode, as I mentioned, the collector emitter voltage or the collector base voltage, because here, once you fix the emitter voltage, the base voltage is automatically fixed, right? So if your emitter voltage is, let's say, 0.5, your base voltage will automatically be 0.5 plus 0.7, which is 1.2. And so what matters is the collector to emitter voltage, right? For different values of collector to emitter voltage or collector to base voltage, the current remains fairly constant. So that is basically your forward active mode, right? And of course, I did draw with a certain slope, so we will look at early voltage and other things in probably the next class. So any doubts, any questions? Yeah.
Sir, not doubt was not here. Sir, earlier you told that
Yeah.
sir, in the previous slide, sir, can we move back? No, sir, one more.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Here can we explain that how IB will increase if
Okay.
VB?
So basically, what is happening is in your forward active mode, right? Your base emitter junction is forward biased and base collector is reverse biased, right? So when you talk about the base current, right? The base current mainly will have to flow. What is the base current? The base current is the current which is flowing through your diode, right? Like, I mean, of course, there is the what happens if you look at the what is that? If you look at the equations governing the BJT and other things, you basically, VBE sets up a certain amount of current, and then there is some recombination happening in base, and that recombination is kind of, some loss is there, so that equivalently that amount of current is drawn from the base, right? Now what is happening is two diodes are going to be
Yes,
active.
sir.
All right. So the till now the base collector junction was fully reverse biased and you only had a depletion region. Now what is going to happen? The base collector junction is also kind of turning on, and therefore you will have some excessive recombination happening and therefore drawing excessive base current. All right.
Yes, sir. So more recombination, so more IB is
Yes,
required
yes,
for
yes.
compensation. sir. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.